the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavali. Italy are out of Euro 2024. On today's show, we will react to Italy's embarrassing exit from the tournament on Saturday, a 2-0 defeat to Switzerland in one of the worst performances. Well, I called it on my post-match reaction, the worst performance I've ever seen from an Italy team at a major tournament. So we will do a deep post-mortem on this disastrous defeat and disastrous tournament. What went wrong, who is to blame. We'll go through all the reasons. There's many of them, including Luciano Spalletti, the players, the FIGC, and that will take up most of the show, I imagine. And we'll also then look ahead, try and find some light, and look ahead now that Spalletti is staying for the new Italy. What players must stay, what players must go, who should be part of the group, looking ahead to the 2026 World Cup, if we get there. So that there'll be plenty to talk about on to today's show. We probably won't do anything on club football today, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we answer all the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. Same price, same terms. For all of you that do listen on Spotify, Apple and iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating. Give us a follow and like. Follow us on YouTube as well. Our YouTube page is really starting to explode. It's gone mad during the Euros. So follow us or subscribe to us. What's the correct terminology, Nima, for
subscribe?
Subscribe.
Oh my God!
Yes, subscribe to us on YouTube because it really helps us grow and do more quality content.
You can't be this much of a boomer. Like it's like talking to Mr. Burns. Like, what do you mean?
What's he called it? The
velocitator and develocitator when he's talking about the gas pedal. Like,
well, on that note, let's park our laughter and our smiles because there ain't going to be much of that in this show. Let's talk about Italy at Euro 2024. Okay, right. So Italy are out of Euro 2024. We lose 2-0 in Berlin, and the place of our triumph at the 2006 World Cup final, but it was so far away from those glory days that you can't. I mean, I can't express how bad Italy were. So Italy lose 2-0, fully deserved. I said in my post-match reaction, if you haven't listened to it yet, go onto our Patreon page, patreon.com/TIFP, which I did straight after the end of the game, where I said it was the worst performance I've ever seen from an Italy team at a major tournament, at a Euros or a World Cup. I've never seen, and I think that's kind of echoed by what many people have
for
said.
Me, if you saw what I tweeted it was the worst performance by an Italy side at a major tournament since 1994. That game against Ireland will always stick out for me as an eyesore. When they lost to Ray Houghton, and also if you look at that squad and the players they had and how little they created and little they could string together. But yeah, it's up there. It's up there.
It's definitely up there. I mean, Ireland is a good one. I didn't think of the Ireland. I mean, North Korea in 1966 was a disaster, and they had great players in that team as well. And obviously they went out. The fact that they went out as well in this game.
People are talking about 2010 and New Zealand and this, that, and the other. And I'm like thinking, well, they weren't really good like that. I take everything into consideration, like the New Zealand game and that Italy side and where they were and if you look at the game, Italy did create enough to win that game, right?
I mean, listen,
against Ireland and against Switzerland. I mean, against Switzerland they were asphalted. Yeah, Italy were asphalted by Switzerland. Let's not.
Yeah, I think what was different with this one is what was different in this one is, at least even in the 1994 one, as bad as we were, like at least we were controlling possession, territory
Yeah,
for much of the game without doing anything.
exactly.
But and same in 2010. I mean,
Yeah,
as awful as we
exactly.
were kind of like the bosses on the pitch,
Yeah,
if you want to say, even though we were carved open, like in that Slovakia
exactly.
game. We were, you watched that game and you knew that Italy were the big team and had the. Whereas in this game, it was we didn't.
Exactly.
We looked like we looked like a minnow team in
Played
this.
like Empoli.
Yeah,
I mean,
horrific. So
it's
it was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. What I want to do though, Nima, is because we're 2 days on now. I think everybody's done that to death now. Is I want to do a deep dive on all the reasons for not just this disastrous game, but we will talk about that as well. But the tournament in general has been a disaster. So I want to go through, and we've got a list of them. I think we've got about 6 or 7 different talking points here, factors in this disastrous tournament and disastrous defeat to Switzerland. We're going to work through each one and we're going to go in deep on each one. So the first place to start is Luciano Spalletti, and what a disaster! Because before the tournament started, we both agreed, and I think most people do, and anybody that's saying they don't is probably rewriting history. We thought that he would be our biggest strength, that he was something that we had over the other nations, that it was Luciano Spalletti after his miracle with Napoli, being such an innovative coach during his career, tactically being advanced, the fact that in international football, generally the club football is where the best managers are. We thought, right, we've got, this is something that we've got. Yes, we don't have the quality players. Our squad is bad, but we have a great manager that can raise the level. That can raise the level of our players, and that's all you expect.
Here's the thing, though. I still think that tactically, in terms of football knowledge, in terms of player development, in terms of his career, in terms of where he is, I think Spalletti is the best coach still in these Euros. I absolutely still think that. There's a difference between ability and getting, and expressing that on the pitch and what he does. His decision making was atrocious this tournament. There's no doubt about that. And his decision making in particular, every single key decision. I mean, I tweeted this out. I still believe that he is tactically one of the best coaches in this tournament. But every single decision, except for 1 or 2, that he has made has been an unmitigated disaster. He's got it wrong. And my perspective on this is when you use the word pragmatic, people automatically associate that with use the synonym defensive football. No, that's not what pragmatism means. Pragmatism means is getting the best with what you've got, right? Your job as a coach, whether it's national team, club, or whatever, is to mitigate your team's weaknesses, not accentuate them by being stubborn because you want to play a certain formation or a certain style. First of all, there was no style. Italy had no style after the Albania game. Okay, They were just reactive. It was, I don't know what was going on, and hopefully one day we'll find out what happened, because that's not how they should have reacted. Was Spalletti overconfident in playing the way he did against Spain and destroyed the players' confidence, which is what I thought after the game, that I thought the way that he approached that game was insane, and he should have continued with what he had done before. But regardless, we'll see what happens there. But my thing is, if you know anything about Luciano Spalletti's career, if you know anything about the players that he has developed, if you know anything about how the football that he's played, the formations that he has mastered, all of these things as a coach, and also what he did with Napoli as the ciliegina sulla torta of that career, then you have to be a football illiterate if you say that he was lucky to win the Scudetto with Napoli.
That's just stupid. Yeah.
But, I mean, you don't understand football.
Look at Napoli after he's left.
No, but look, not just that. As we say in Sweden, you're football illiterate if you don't understand that he is, based on his entire career, the best coach in the Euros. But equally as true, his decision-making has been atrocious, and he's got it all wrong.
Is it a question, Nima? Because, I was going to discuss this after. And also, I want to caveat everything that I say about Spalletti, that, I'm not saying Spalletti, like I said, there's lots of reasons why Italy failed in these Euros. Spalletti is one of them. We're going to get to all the other reasons, so just bear that in mind. That everything I'm caveating everything with that. Is it possible that he's the best manager in the Euros, but is he the best club manager at the Euros and not the best manager? And that is it a case that maybe he's suited more to club football than international football, or that was his mistake, that he needed to realise that I hope that it's that, and I hope it's not the alternative, which is he has his way of succeeding can only succeed in club football, in that he has a style of play which suits club football. That style of play doesn't suit international football. Could that be the case? This is exactly
what I mean. This is exactly what I mean when I use the word pragmatism. This is what I mean when I use the word pragmatism. You know, Antonio Conte in 2016 took a world-class goalkeeper, 3 world-class defenders, and utter dross from that part of the pitch upwards to the quarterfinal of the Euros against losing on penalties against the reigning world champions. Or sorry, the soon-to-be world champions in Germany, right? Or were they world champions?
No, they were world champions. Yeah.
They were there already in 2014. Yes, sorry, I got my years mixed up. But mitigated. That's what I'm saying. Your job as a coach, in my opinion, at national team and club level, when you don't have Guardiola budgets, is to mitigate the weaknesses in your team.
Because if we look, Nima, at what has succeeded for Spalletti, let's just say take most recently at Napoli. You know, what type of football did he play with Napoli? Okay, of course the players were far, far superior to the players he had with Italy. But that's part of the point. His success at Napoli was, you know, he wanted to press high line, press high up the pitch, win the ball, you know, in the final third, win it back quickly, you know, move one touch, 2-touch passing, lots of intensity. You know, that was his style of play. Now, he didn't have those type of players to succeed with that with Italy, or good enough players to succeed with the style of football which succeeded at Napoli. So the question comes that, yes, as you're saying, you have to play a different style of football. My question is Spalletti, does he have the game to be able to play that different style of football? I think that's a very
valid question. I think that's a really, really valid question. But I'm not even asking him to change his football. Like, that's the thing. I'm not even asking him to change his identity. All I was asking for was to use a formation which the players themselves told him they feel more comfortable in. That's all I'm saying. Again, for me, formation is irrelevant other than to get balance on the pitch.
But that's part of the question, though, is can Spalletti succeed in using a different formation? I don't think it was down to formation, personally. I think it was down to other issues which we'll come to in terms of the mistakes.
To deny that Italy were balanced in a 3-5-2 as opposed to the horror show of this 4-3-3, where if the answer to your question is Stefan El Sharawi and Brian Cristante in the year of our Lord, 2024, you're asking the wrong questions. Okay.
Well, yeah, but the fact that they played has nothing to do with the formation. It's just
they
shouldn't have played.
They played a 4-3-3. They played a 4-3-3. They played Cristante.
Yeah, but they could have played a 4-3-3 without those players. It's not about the formation.
It is. They couldn't have. They shouldn't have, because he shouldn't have been playing Stefan El Sharawi in a 4-3-3 in 2024.
Well, Stefan El Sharawi shouldn't be playing full stop. It's got nothing to do with the formation.
It has everything to do with the formation, because that's the formation that suits him. This is again what I'm saying.
Well, no, they could have played Zaccagni on the left. They could have played Chiesa on the left. It's the formation is irrelevant. Those players shouldn't have played. For me, the formation is quite irrelevant, because I think they were awful in both formations.
They weren't. I think that's wrong to say. They were balanced in one.
I disagree. I think if they'd have played a 3-5-2 against Switzerland, it would have been exactly the same story. The only reason was that Switzerland are a far superior team than Croatia, and they were losing with a back three anyway. The formation for me is irrelevant. The issue was, if we're talking about formation, the problem with the formation with Spalletti is he changed formation too much. He was 4-2-3-1 for the first 2 games. Then he went to 3-5-2 for the third game, but then scrapped it after they went behind and went back to a 4-2-3-1 in that game.
No, he didn't. He changed it at half time.
No, he didn't. He changed it after they went. No, the formation stayed the same. Yeah, the formation stayed the same.
He went into a hybrid. He went into that.
The formation stayed the same. The formation changed after they went behind. Then he went to a 4-3-3 for the third game. He changed his formation too much. He was changing his formation too much in the build up to the tournament. Remember when they went to the USA? He tried a back three. Then he came back to a back four before with the friendlies before the tournament as well. So the players, there was too much changing, too confusing. That was his biggest mistake with the formation, because it meant that the Italy players were confused. The players didn't know their positions and their movements. There was no kind of fluency or patterns of play, because the players were moved around too much. And then too many personnel changes. I mean, it's absolute madness to make 5 or 6 changes. I know, the players were probably a bit tired. Obviously, that was his reason. But that's insane, because,
That's due to his in-game management. Why the hell was Jorginho playing how many 90 minutes in a row? I mean, or 80 minutes, 85 minutes in a row? We know that he can't do that. Same with DiMarco, playing him 80, 90 minutes, 2-3 games in a row when you're playing every 4 days. I mean, again, this is what I mean. His every single main decision that he had to make, he got it wrong, barring Zaccagni. I mean, playing Mattia Darmian as a left winger,
which was too late, which was too late of a change as it is.
Lucky. He was lucky in that game. He avoided utter disaster by that beautiful.
But also throwing players in from the cold, Nima. Like, we're talking about overplaying players, which I agree with. But I also, again, I'm caveating it, and we'll get to it later, with the fact that we just didn't have any other options. Like, for me, Jorginho, you could see how much Jorginho was missed in the game against.
I'm talking about bringing him
against
off
Switzerland, because in terms of just we had no control in the middle. Well, that's another point. But throwing players in from the cold, like El Shaarawy, 0 minutes in this tournament, all of a sudden you throw him in. And why El Shaarawy? Why not Zaccagni? Zaccagni's on such a high after scoring that goal. And actually, in the few minutes that Zaccagni got, I actually think he played pretty well. I thought he did.
Agree.
I thought he did quite well. Why would you start El Shaarawy out of the Fagioli? You throw him in a big game like this, and he obviously made the mistake.
Well, this is what I mean about easing players. If you rotate in the games and you give these players minutes to adjust themselves, you just basically avoid burning them out, especially if they're older or whatever, or have, like DiMarco, who starts holding his sides at the 70th minute regardless. If you rotate these players, you don't exhaust them, you don't burn them out, and you rotate them, and you get everyone else into the tournament, so that people aren't just sitting as tourists on the sidelines for 1.5 weeks, and then all of a sudden thrown in.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I mean. It's
and certain picks full stop.
Yeah,
I mean, I said in my post match that Darmian, he had a horrendous tournament, but Darmian, I cannot accept. I'm thinking Spalletti's even though he's 65, he's such a modern progressive coach. And, like you're saying, tactically, what a great tactician is.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that Spalletti, of all people, would play a right-footed fullback in 2024 at left-back, when it's so obvious. If anyone watched England in this tournament with Trippier at left-back, you cannot play a right-sided fullback at left-back in 2024.
Unless it's Philippe Lahm in 2000.
Yeah, he was both-footed, and he was both-footed as well. You cannot play him. It's horrendous. You lose all balance in your team, even regardless of how good your team is further forward up the pitch. You lose all balance.
And you certainly don't play Matteo Darmian as a winger. Either. I mean, look, people, it's been annoying.
And Cristante, full stop. Can somebody explain to me what the obsession is? Because it's not just Spalletti. It's Mancini. It's Mourinho. What does this guy? He's the like, Italian. What's his name? Paredes. How does he keep playing this guy?
There is this thing with Cristante and Gagliardini that for some reason, it's like Gagliardini at Inter for all those years. Coach after coach continued playing him. Nobody understood why. I don't know what Cristante does during training. I don't know what he does off the pitch as a person or whatever it is. But there's just some players who are just tactically inept, but the coaches seem to love them. And it's the same thing with Gagliardini at Inter, and we see now with Cristante at Roma, and now
I can't accept that, Nima. Playing Cristante, full stop. I can't accept it, because it doesn't matter.
Of course you shouldn't. It doesn't matter who. I'm explaining it.
No, I can't accept it. No game that Cristante ever plays in. If you play Cristante, your midfield loses control of the game, which is what happened in it. Even against weak opposition. I remember the Bosnia friendly, which we played well in before the tournament. We completely dominated the midfield in that game. We looked really good. I remember Cristante come on in the second half, but all of a sudden Bosnia dominating and controlling the midfield as soon as he come on. If Cristante is in your midfield, even if you play next to Xavi and Iniesta, suddenly the team the team doesn't have possession of the ball anymore. That's what happens when Cristante
No, but
comes
listen,
up.
I'm not defending.
No, I'm
explaining it.
not saying to you.
No,
I'm just saying
no.
I can't believe it myself.
This is a Gagliardini syndrome. Like this is something they all catch, and it happens, and it's exhausting to watch because you don't understand it, and you're wondering why are you hurting yourself again. Like mitigate your weaknesses.
Next criticism of Spalletti, Nima, the squad choices. Now, I don't place too much on this because as we'll come on to after, that we just don't have the players. There just isn't really many. We just don't really have any alternatives. But I do think that this tournament showed that not saying he would have made a massive difference, but I think he would have been better than Cristante. Not taking Locatelli, I think was shown to be a mistake, wasn't it?
Of course it was. He's a dynamic player, and he's a player who's won the Euros, and he has the experience, and it's no. Listen, I think he should have brought on Locatelli. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's no discussion. It was a huge mistake. The others, Politano, Gnonto, I don't.
Orsolini.
Orsolini. Who cares?
Well, I think. Listen, I think you're fighting over crumbs, as they would say. You know, if you really think that would have been the game changer, then it wouldn't. It would have been better to have a left foot. I don't think we had a left footer in our attack. Maybe having another winger. But that brings me on to the point where I think this is where the issue was his squad selection didn't align with the systems that he then used.
What was the point of calling up Alessandro Bongiorno and Raul Bellanova? What was the point? What was the point?
No, yeah.
I mean, it's just stupid. Like he had no clear plan of what he wanted to do. And
that's just to expand on where I was starting, Nima. That the squad selection didn't align with the systems he then used, because clearly, if you look at the squad he picked, picking all those, how many centre backs did he?
5, I think.
It might have even been more if you include like Darmian, like players that can play at centre back.
Yeah, right centre back.
And then he picked five full backs and wing backs as well. So that's 10 in total. I mean, that for me, that suggested that he clearly that he wanted to. He picked his squad to play a 3-man defence, right? Obviously, Acerbi got injured, and that maybe that he panicked a little bit with that, but. His squad selection was for a 3-man defence, but then it became clear that, and as only one game he started with a back 3. All the other games he played with a back 4 and basically used wingers, but we didn't have enough wingers in the team, and the wingers that we did have were obviously weren't very good either. So, the squad selection didn't align. Again, that just adds to the whole confusion and not really having a clear idea of an identity of what you want to do, and I think that's like showed.
What, 10 months in, 9 months in. When did he take over? What is it? 8 months, 9 months? I mean,
and that's my biggest criticism. All this together, that you've got to go into a tournament with a clear formation, a clear idea, everybody understanding what you want to do, everyone understanding their movements and their patterns because you're using a clear system. And yes, occasionally you might have to adapt. And if that means you play with a 4 or you play with a 3, whatever it is. You've got to pick a formation. You've got to stick to it. Okay, exactly. In games, you're going to adapt sometimes. If you're ahead, you might need to go to a 3. If you're losing, you might need to throw an extra man forward. That's fine. That's no problem. Everybody does that. But to be basically experimenting and to be flipping and flopping between formations and then to pick a squad that didn't suit a formation that you ended up using. This is where I'm so critical
and also
of
his
him.
Communication in that, saying that he changed the formation from a back 3 to a 4 because we weren't creating enough, but Italy were balanced defensively, to fielding that cluster F of a lineup against Switzerland, where Switzerland had 59% possession in the first half, Italy barely got out of their own half, and I mean, I'm sorry, but that's nonsense. That's utter nonsense. And it's, and he was nervous. This is what everyone saw was Spalletti at his worst. This is Spalletti at his absolute worst. This is what got him sacked at Inter in the end. This is what people.
His media communication, Nima, was bad.
But not just his media communication, but all of these things together. This is what his first tenure at Roma, despite delivering good results, people were fed up with him when he left, and were happy when he left because they couldn't deal with it.
He didn't. Again, this comes back to what we said before about the club versus international debate. Like, you've got to have a demeanor in front of the media, but in everything that you do that suggests that you're a leader, that people can look up to you and have trust in you. And he didn't give off that demeanor. His media communication was not good. He was too emotional. He was unclear with his messages. He spoke too much. And we were kind of half praising him, half criticizing this after the event. Went into real detail of that Albania game about tactics and all this
That's
kind of
good.
stuff. Well, maybe, but I just want a straightforward manager that he spoke too much for me. He talked too much.
Carlo
He was
goes
too.
Sean Dyke on
No,
the
he was
Italian
too
football podcast.
too philosophical at
None of that
times.
woke nonsense.
No, but he was too
4-4-2.
He was too philosophical at times. I just wanted him to be straight, and I think that gave, especially when things start to go wrong and you're talking too much and you're going into you're debating life after death and all this kind of stuff.
Well, that's Spalletti. He's never going to. You can't ask him to do. He's always going to do that. My issue is not that. My issue is when he goes on unhinged tirades, where he did against an Italian journalist, and he called him in the middle of the night to apologize afterwards. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. My problem with him in communication wise is referring to Di Lorenzo as his son, who was atrocious, and continuing to play him. That destroys your credibility. Like stuff like that is what I
all of it. I just don't think.
I don't have a problem with him being Spalletti. That's why I wanted him appointed in the first place, because I think, look, you are who you are, and he's not going to change his 60 plus. Okay, you can't teach an old dog new tricks or old pony new tricks. Like, you just can't, right? So.
But he gave off the smell of he was feeling the pressure, that he was panicking,
yeah, he was.
That he was talking too much, he was going off on tangents and waffling. Yes, waffling. That's what I mean. That for me, if I'm a player, I'm looking at that, and that's not giving me the positive, anything positive to take to the games. That's going to affect my performance, I think. Because you're starting to question the manager. You're starting to think, even unconsciously, you're starting to think, well, the manager's under pressure. The manager doesn't seem to be in control of the situation. The manager's not in control of the situation. Then the players
insecurity
creates insecurity. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right there. He oozed insecurity. He oozed a person who was experimenting and didn't know what he was doing, and that's why he made these stupid decisions and in-game management, because he looked panicked on the sidelines. And I think after, what is he, 64, 65? How old is he? He shouldn't be in that position, and especially if he's had 10 months to prepare.
No, that's what I mean. Could you imagine like an Ancelotti in front of the media?
Never gonna happen.
Or he's going to just you're going to look at him and you're going to he's just going to command respect and authority, and the players are going to feed off that. That's what he didn't give. So I criticize him for that. And also, I think it showed like the whole mental side of things. He failed in this tournament because if you watch the Switzerland game, the lack of urgency, he looked like he was somebody that just couldn't motivate. He couldn't motivate his players. The players looked unmotivated. They weren't. They were 2-0 down, and they were walking around the pitch. Some of them. They weren't throwing men into the box. That's on Spalletti. If you cannot motivate your players to show a bit of fire, there was no fight. There was no grinta. Where was the grinta in this game? When you watched Italy in 2016, which was a terrible team as well. They were all fighting. They were running. There was fire in their bellies.
Conte, this is what Conte does. Conte is a master at building like a group like that fights. His teams are an extension of his personality. I believe, to some extent, a lot of football, it's like this, that teams are extension of that manager's personality, not just spirit-wise, but also tactically. And I think Spalletti, he's not a grinta guy. He's a passionate guy. He's a philosophical guy who sometimes waffles and goes off the reservation. But he's also an artistic guy.
But we're not asking for Conte Grinta. We're not asking for the guy from the captain from Mike Bassett who punched the hole in the wall as he led England out. We're not asking for that. We're asking what was his name, Baza or whatever his name was. Or no, Gary Waddock or something. I can't remember what his name was. But anyway, we're not asking for Gary Waddock. What we're asking for is you're 2-0 down, you're about to go out in the Euros, that you're fighting, that you're showing a bit of the fight and desire, and you're throwing men into the box, trying to get a goal, and and not just walking around the pitch. That's what we're asking for. And that is the bare minimum. And we didn't even get the bare minimum. I mean, it was horrendous. But
no, but Spalletti's the kind of coach throughout his career that he needs. He's not the kind of guy to react. He's the guy who will build something, and then once it's harvest time, he harvests. He's not the guy who will change things mid-game. He prepares for games in one way, and he is very much live and die by the sword kind of. He doesn't change at all like that. That's just who he is. He doesn't change mid-game. He doesn't, he prepares in one way, and then he's willing to die, fight, win or lose that way. That's just who he is. And that's just, he's an old school Italian coach.
Well, let's
Mancini was the same way. Most of these guys they're schooled that way. That's just who they are.
Yeah, and I just want to echo your point about Di Lorenzo. That was his other really big mistake in terms of personnel. Persisting with Di Lorenzo was madness, because he was clearly having a. I mean, he had a very bad season as well, but he was clearly having a disaster at the tournament. But Williams broke him. Williams completely broke him, and he was a disaster.
Because he left him 1v1 again. Like, that's another thing. Like, again,
well, regardless of that, he had to swap. He had to sub him.
This is what I mean. Your job is to mitigate your weaknesses. You know who Di Lorenzo is, and hopefully you know who Williams is, right? You don't put him 1v1 with space behind him, because that's going to not just destroy him every time he goes past him, but it's also going to.
But once that had happened, Nima, to persist with him when he was disastrous. He wasn't just disaster. He was disaster on the ball as well. It wasn't just defensively. He was everything. He was gone. He was completely gone. He was done.
Except
he was
for the
broken.
first half against Croatia, where him and Darmian looked pretty good together. But again, this is what I mean. Like, again, I always come back to this. When I interviewed Riccardo Ferri, and I asked him many years ago after the interview, and I was speaking to him about comparing the best coaches, of his era, and I said, well, Trapattoni had unbelievable success everywhere, and Sacchi is a legend at Milan. Who do you think is the better coach? And he said, without a doubt, Trapattoni, because he likened it to a good chef. He said, a world-class chef looks into the pantry and creates you a 3-star Guide Michelin, dishes with whatever he's got there. That's Trapattoni. Sacchi needs specific ingredients in order to cook something, and for me, that's the difference between a great coach and a legend and world-class coach. Yeah. And I think,
well, the Repubblica gave a fantastic quote analysing Spalletti's Euro 2024. He says, you can only make carbonara if you have the eggs, the pecorino, but if you only have
and the guanciale, don't forget the guanciale.
I'm sorry, the guanciale as well. Yeah, sorry, can't forget that. If you only have garlic, and a little olive oil, you need to change the recipes. Yeah. But he didn't understand it, and I think that's the overall point, really. Yeah. But the question, the question that I added to that at the start was, is he able to, or is it that his recipe is the only recipe of success, and that recipe doesn't?
He's more Sacchi than he is Trapattoni. But I guess to use Ferri's, to use Riccardo.
Well, we'll see, because he's been confirmed now, so we'll see if he can change the recipe.
I'm glad
he's been confirmed. So the question is, Nima, was it the right decision to confirm him?
I don't know. I'm not even going to go into that, because I don't know. I really don't know if it's the right decision. Personally, I prefer someone who, I'm very conservative when it comes to these things. I want Allegri. I want Max Allegri. I want to feel comfortable. I want to watch the game, win 1-0, snooze in and out. I don't want drama. And I want him afterwards to piss you off so we can have something.
That's the real reason why.
Well, I'd say it's probably the majority of the reason, but not the only reason. But I want Allegri. That's my, if Ancelotti's not coming, and he's not coming because he's writing history at Real Madrid, then and he.
Can someone please hire Allegri? Please, just somebody hire Allegri soon, please. Just anybody.
No. If Ancelotti's not coming, and he's not because he's writing history at Real Madrid, then I want Allegri. But that's not going to happen, and I think that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But this is the only caveat and the only demand I have, and it's non-negotiable. Stop calling up players that don't suit your system. Play your 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 hybrid. Do not call anyone up that doesn't suit that system.
Mm.
Do not call Di Marco up ever again to this team because he cannot play in your system.
Okay, well, Nima, if I stop you there, let's talk about that.
Yeah, if it means you can't call star players to your team, then don't call them up. Build, so you have 2 years now, 2 years to build something properly with an identity. Stick to your guns and adapt and pick players that suit your system. That's all I ask.
Yeah, that's fair enough. We'll talk about how he will build after. I would say that he has disappointed me very, very, very much in this tournament, and having gone away and thought about it since the game a little bit more, I have started to question more whether he's the right man for the job. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because of the fact that he didn't have much time. I know people will criticize him, but 10 matches before the tournament and only 2 get-togethers. For a manager like Spalletti, when he needs more time with the players, I do think that does need to be taken into account. But at the same time, you could go the other way and say, well, he's never going to get that time with Italy. So again, is he the right man? Do you need someone that, like an Ancelotti, for example? You're going to say Allegri, but somebody that will keep things simpler.
No, I said I want Ancelotti.
Someone that will keep things simpler when you don't have the time. Can you have a complex way of playing like Spalletti? I say complex, but try and do the things
You
that you did
can
at club
if you
level.
have 2-3 years to prepare. Like
Yeah,
Mancini.
maybe, and that's why I want to give him that. That's why I want to give him the
Well,
benefit
that's exactly
of the doubt,
what I mean.
and see if he can do it, because I do think that longer term, if we want to try and build something, and we'll come to the whole youth stuff afterwards, that it's better to have a Spalletti that is prepared to have a more self-sustaining project over a period of time that will be aligned with what hopefully Italy want to do in terms of bringing through players. But we'll come to the youth stuff afterwards. So
Yeah,
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but now his life is used up now. There's no doubt about it.
Exactly. Look, my point, the reason why I punted on your question if he's the right man is because it's irrelevant at this point for me. I think what matters is identity. Again, I think I'm okay if you sack him. I'm okay that he stays. But what I'm not okay with, and what is non-negotiable, is this tinkering. Again, if he's going to stay, and he looks like he's going to stay, I want him to stick to his guns and start building a proper identity, a proper style of play, and stick to his formation.
Yeah, and not betray his principles.
That's exactly what I mean. That's the extent.
Don't appease the media. Don't even appease the players. Which he shouldn't have done. If he should have just stuck with what he had, whatever it was.
Yeah.
He should have stuck with it.
But the problem is that he can't send mixed messages like his squad selection, like we've gone through. That you want a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No, he's not that guy. He's an ideologue, just like Mancini was. He had one way of playing. That's fine, but then stick to it.
Yeah.
Okay, stick to those guns. Call up,
and that's another reason why Nima, just to come in on that. That's another reason why, again, coming on the kind of the confusion and making himself look a little bit weak and confused with the players. That I think it's always you're always onto a. As soon as you appease the media or your players, you're onto a loser. Always. There's hardly any evidence of a manager appeasing the media or appeasing the player like so openly like he did.
No, it doesn't work. It
doesn't work because even if it might work for that one game,
you kill
in the
your
long
own
term,
credibility, you kill your own authority. We all know that. No, what I'm talking about is don't call up players if they don't suit your system. Meaning, Alessandro Buongiorno, forget about him. He doesn't exist. Federico Di Marco, he doesn't exist. You don't want to play. You want stick to your guns. Play your 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. Call up only players that suit that system.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the media
agreed.
says, regardless of anything else. Because if you don't, and you try to appease him or appease that, you have what we saw now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Let's move on to the players now. First of all, quickly, because I just want to talk about the top players underperforming. I know this will be partially collected to Spalletti, but it's also down to the players as well. I would say out of this tournament, only 2 players come out of this tournament as big positives, and those are Donnarumma, who I think as we speak now has been the best goalkeeper in the tournament
without a doubt.
Without a doubt, he's been absolutely brilliant. So again, all we can say is
he's been the captain. He's shown why he should be the captain. When he's been a leader. He's been a leader at the Azzurri, and he showed it once again this tournament.
Yeah, and the other player, of course, was Calafiori, who has been really the only new positive, let's say, because I think
Yeah,
Donnarumma confirmed himself, whereas Calafiori is the new positive. He's come out, he's emerged, and and that is something that we can take from the tournament. And we've got this great, hopefully going to be a great centre back, and he was, fantastic in those first 3 games. It's a shame he missed the Switzerland game, but he was absolutely brilliant. And we've spoken about him already. I thought Bastoni was decent. I
no,
thought he,
I think
I
he was
thought, I
right up
thought he was,
there.
I
I
thought
thought
he
he
was good,
showed.
decent to good. I don't want to go
No, I
overboard.
think he
I thought,
showed that he's ready to lead the defense at the Azzurri
yeah,
moving forward. I think he was. I think Donnarumma, Calafiori, and Bastoni are
and
the
that's
players.
it. Everyone else was
I think
a,
Barella was decent. I think this notion that
he was
Barella was.
until the last game. He was
Yeah,
horrendous against
yeah.
Switzerland.
Against Switzerland, he was in no man's land. He looked hungover. He looked
Yeah.
like he'd been in one of his own wine cellars the night before,
Mm.
drinking one of his Bordeaux or Bourgognes, and he looked absolutely
Yeah, he was.
hungover.
Yeah, yeah.
But other than that, those first 3 games, I think he was
Yeah,
good.
but you need it. But you need your big players to. You need a Barella to perform in that game, especially with your
Yeah.
midfield as it is, and he failed when it mattered in that game. But the other big names, if we go through them, Nima, Di Lorenzo, horrific. Scamacca, for me, flop of the
Flop,
tournament. Flop of
flop.
the tournament. I'm trying to think of players from other. I mean, maybe England. We'll see how they get on. But there's some big names there that have been flopping. But
Well, Foden comes to mind.
yeah, but if we're talking about Italy, Scamacca, flop of the tournament. I mean, for what we expected, because we were hoping that he would be, because we knew our attack was bad, but we were hoping that he would be the.
No, look, he needs to. I love Scamacca. I'm not giving up on him
Mm,
at all. But this
that was
this this
it's an
is
unforgivable tournament.
this is he needs to sit down, look himself in the mirror, and ask himself some serious questions, because he's 25 years old now. He's not a child. These are his peak years, and what we saw this tournament is simply unacceptable.
And he was coming off the best form of his career.
Exactly.
So
Like,
what
I'm
more
not.
can you want?
I mean, what else? And the attitude, the body language, the complete defeatist look on his face.
Yeah,
I'm
brilliant.
sorry, but what are you doing?
So his performance against Switzerland was just totally unacceptable. So
He was just not there mentally.
The first half was embarrassing for him. He wasn't moving. He wasn't making any runs in behind. I know we were deep and we were awful as a team, but if you watched him, his movement, he was just walking around the field. He wasn't making runs in behind. He was giving no option deep or behind or coming for the ball. Then when he did get the ball, he was panicking and just giving it away. There was one instant where he got the ball kind of just on the halfway line to the right, and he just basically just panicked and kicked it away and gave it straight back to them. I mean, he was so bad. And yes, okay, different styles, different managers, but I'm sorry, if you're a top player, if you're a top striker, you make it happen. You make it happen for you.
This was psychological, and this was also his attitude. His attitude is what the problem is. He looks disinterested. He looks
all the criticisms that we had.
Let me put it this way. I think he looks like he suffers from confidence issues. Like, he's the kind of guy, to me, that seems like he needs someone to kicking up the ass, to use very frank language, in order for him to stay on top of his game. He needs a manager who's constantly kind of knows how to handle him as a person and kick him up the backside to keep him fired up and going. Because the talent, I don't think, is up for discussion. I think this is a psychological and mental issue. And you know what? I hope he stays at Atalanta now. I hope that Gasperini, because apparently whatever Gasperini does works.
Well, no one's going to want to buy him after that. No big club watching that is going to want to.
Well, you don't know. I mean, if the choice for Milan is after Zirkzee is Lukaku, I'd rather go with Scamacca. But regardless, I hope he stays there. I hope he continues. I hope he has a full good season across three tournaments for Atalanta, and I hope that he learns from this.
All the criticisms that we had, Nima, before he went on this, because people forget, until March he was having a really bad season. People forget that now. He was having a really bad. All the criticisms that we had or what I had anyway. Don't want to speak for you, but all the criticisms that I had on Scamacca going into March were shown during this tournament.
Absolutely,
his lack of movement, his lack of game understanding, his laziness. his movement in the box, especially, was horrendous in this tournament. The best example is that Chiesa ball across the box against Croatia, where he has to make that. You have to make that run and get in front of your man, and he was too slow and he was too reactive.
I mean, again, I think it's. I agree with all of that, because we said it at the time too. I mean, both of us, that all of his weaknesses have been laid bare, and then Gasperini got him going, and then we had hope. He needs to. All of those things need to be addressed, and he has to show that he's not just a form player, but is a consistent player. And I still think that he is. I mean, I still think he should be the starting number 9. I just think that he needs to start learning. He needs to start showing development and mental strength. And the only way to come out of such a horrible performance is to work harder and do better next time.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, I'll run through the others quickly, because we will speak about these after, when we get to look at the squad for the World Cup. Jorginho, obviously, he's past his best now. Chiesa, sadly, not the same player anymore, although I did think he actually was okay against Switzerland. Barella,
listen, Federico Chiesa, we need to stop this now. I've been his biggest proponent ever since he came through at Fiorentina. It's over. This is a 5th, 6th, 7th Serie A player level now. That's who he is. He's not a top player anymore. It's over. How we've watched him after the ACL killed him. It's as simple as that. The ACL injury has killed him. He's killed his career, just like with Zaniolo, who looked like a generational player. 2 ACLs later, I mean, look at him. He's become a meme. I'm sorry. It is what it is. We need to stop this. You need to. How old is Chiesa now?
26.
I mean, you need to look at what he's done in his career. He's 26 years old. I'm sorry, but no. This saving Chiesa thing needs to stop. We need to look very bluntly. We need to be very honest and just look at the results and what he's achieved. And it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. And it's not just 1 year. It's not just one game. It's season after season after season.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad, and
it's as simple as that. Zaniolo, Chiesa, these were generational players that the injuries.
Well, we'll come on to injuries. That we will come on to that, Nima. Don't worry. Darmian as well. Horrific tournament.
Yeah, I don't want to see Darmian and Di Marco ever again in the Italian.
Oh, Di Marco as well. Gosh, we forgot about him. I mean, we're talking about flops. He was horrendous tournament for Di Marco. Because one thing you expect from him, we know that as a left back, he's not going to be the suited to the defensive side of the game, to the run in. He doesn't last the full games and stuff. We know about all that. But one thing that with Di Marco always brings is when he has the ball at his feet, he his delivery, his use of the ball, he hardly ever see him give it away, even if it's just a simple pass for Inter. His crossing, his chance creation is world class. What has been for Inter. Even that side of his game was horrendous in this tournament. He was crossing, wasn't even beating the first man.
Well, he was giving it away. We know that he had physical problems, but more than that, he was just not there mentally. And that's another thing. I don't. As long as Spalletti is the coach of the Italy national team, I don't want to see Di Marco there. It's a waste of Di Marco's time. It's a waste of Italy's time. It's a waste of everyone's time. If you're going to play Federico Di Marco, you have to play a system that suits him. Spalletti does not want to play a system or a formation that suits Federico Di Marco. It's a waste of everyone's time to call him up. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Like, you might be right. You might be right.
It's getting ridiculous. Like, there's no, same thing with Darmian. Like, you play him as a left winger. He did well in the first half against Croatia, playing as a right centre-back, which is his position now. Left or right centre-back. Maybe can cover last 15 minutes as a wing-back. But if you're going to play him as a winger, attacking winger, and then wonder why he's not doing well, no.
Well, okay, let's move on from that then, Nima. So we've been very, very critical, of course, of Spalletti, of the players, but we now have to acknowledge that Italy lack quality of players. We have to be open that again, as I said when I was caveating on Spalletti, we have to accept that this is one of the weakest Italy squads in history. There's no doubt about it. If we look at the attack, listen to these names of attackers: Scamacca, Retegui, Zaccagni, El Shaarawy, Chiesa, Raspadori. Those are the 6 attackers that we took. That's a Roma reserve wing back for the last 2 years, let me say, a Napoli reserve, a lower Serie A striker from Genoa, a Lazio player, an Atalanta striker with 1 goal for Italy, and a winger who, sadly, as you just said, has been a shadow of himself since the ACL. The number of goals for Italy that these players have: 7, 7, 6, 4, 1, 1. I mean, it's a horrendous attack. The quality is just not there. Our attacker scored 1 goal in 4 games. Our strikers had 1 shot on target in the tournament. Only four teams in the Euros had less shots on target than us in total. 0 shots on target for our team, but let's just say we're talking about the attack, against Spain. 1 shot on target against Switzerland. We had no shots in full stop against Switzerland until the 73rd minute. So, I mean, that attack is absolutely horrendous. So, I mean, yes, we can criticise Spalletti, but there's only so much you can do when you've got an attack like that. And we have to, everybody has to.
There's no doubt about that. We have to acknowledge that there's a problem in quality. But let me just compare to 2016 what Antonio Conte had. Simone Zaza, Graziano Pelle, Ciro Immobile, Eder, and Lorenzo Insigne, who doesn't really suit his 3-5-2 system. So compared to that, brought to the quarterfinals, losing on penalties to the world champions, to the absolute mess that we saw, I do think that, yes, even again, come back to this. Your job as a coach is to mitigate your weaknesses, not accentuate them. Antonio Conte did that with that squad. So Spalletti did the complete opposite with this squad. It doesn't mean that this squad of attackers are the creme de la creme in Italian football history. Of course it doesn't. Nuance. What it means is that Spalletti took a bunch of players that maybe aren't the greatest ever, or good players, and he didn't get the best out of them. So it's not one or the other. It's right hand washes left hand washes right hand.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But we've done the coach. We've done the coach.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
No, you're absolutely right. No one. I think everybody will agree with you there. There's no doubt about that. But we have to acknowledge that this is not good.
No, they're not good enough.
This is not. But this is not good enough for Italy to these are our attackers. If we're taking this group of attackers to a Euros, we've got a serious problem. And I would also go for the midfield. See, I think this hasn't been highlighted enough about how weak our midfield was in this tournament. We've gone from the best midfield in the world at Euro 2020. Spain might try and fight us for that, but I think Italy had the best midfield in the world.
Jorginho, Verratti, Barella was unplayable.
Yeah, I mean that's 3 world-class players, right, at that time. And we've gone from the best midfield in the world to one of the weakest midfields, in my opinion, certainly among the top nations, and one of the weakest midfields we've ever had in the space of 3 years. And obviously, there's some reasons for that, missing players, which we'll come to. But against Switzerland, and again, I know this is also partly Spalletti's choices, but against Switzerland in the first knockout game at the Euros, we're playing Brian Cristante and a player coming off a 7th-month betting ban in our midfield, in our 3-man midfield. I mean, that says it all. We have a midfielder who if we're looking at the squad, who's passing his pub level standard, Fratesi, 40% pass accuracy against Croatia. It's embarrassing. We have a Verona player. Our number 10 is Lorenzo Pellegrini, who I think is a good player, but he's not a great. It's clear he's not more than a good player. He's a good player. Maybe at club level, a very good player at most at club level, but he's too slow. He's not a top player, Pellegrini. He's not.
No, he's not a top player, like world class. No, of course not.
But he's then we've got Jorginho, who's obviously 32. He's past his best. He can only play once a week now. So I think our midfield was very weak as well in this tournament in terms of.
I agree with everything you said, but again, Stefano Sturaro, Daniele De Rossi at 32. Thiago Motta at 33. Giaccherini. Marco Parolo. These are the players that beat that Spain side 2-0 in 2016. You cannot sit here and tell me that this midfield is qualitatively worse than that midfield.
No, you can't. But again, we can't use that. We can't.
No, I'm not using it as an excuse.
No, I'm not saying using it as an excuse. But we've got to acknowledge that we
absolutely
as a nation.
There's no doubt about it.
This is, we cannot be going to tournaments with
There's no doubt
with an
about
attack in lineup like this, with a midfield
No,
lineup
there's no
like
doubt
this,
about that.
and
There's no doubt about that.
and then just blame the coach and not accept that this isn't good.
No,
enough.
I'm not blaming the coach.
No, I'm not.
I'm saying,
this isn't directed at you. I'm not directing
yeah.
this at you. I'm just saying that this is a big problem if we're going to tournaments with this level of players. We can't win tournaments unless you're creating a miracle. I mean, Conte got to the quarterfinal. He didn't get further than that, but he created a miracle to get to the quarterfinal. And that was miracle stuff.
The reason why I keep banging on about that, about what Conte did, because I think that is his greatest achievement as a coach, is because that's when I think Conte is at his absolute best. And he proved it at Inter as well. When he's back against the wall, when you have to deliver, come hell or high water, turning Perisic into a wing-back when he had failed to do so previously, winning him over, getting him at that point in his career to accept the wing-back role, getting Eriksen at that point in his career. These are experienced players.
I agree with you, but
and getting into players at
if we're relying on a manager,
like this is no. I'm just saying that's what I want from my manager to do it, to react like that. As well, of course, as qualitatively.
Yeah, listen, I agree with. Listen, no one is disagreeing with you. The point is, though, we're going to these tournaments with this level of players. If we're having to rely on a manager performing a miracle for us to have a great tournament, then that is the problem. You know, we can't. You know, if Italy were going to get to deep in this tournament and try and win this tournament, Spalletti would have had to have done a miracle. Basically, maybe when you look at the draw, maybe not, because we had a weak draw. But if we were on the other side of the draw, for example, and we got deep in this tournament, Spalletti would have had to perform a miracle with the squad that he'd had available. That is a problem. We can't go to tournaments having to pray that we have a manager like Conte or whoever performing a miracle. And the quality of players, I mean, even at centre back, one player's out, one player's suspended, and Gianluca Mancini's coming in.
Yeah,
you know,
again. Yeah, but
okay, you can say Spalletti made the wrong choice, but
Buongiorno is there. Like, but Alessandro Buongiorno exists. Like, you know.
But again, we're having to play all left-sided centre backs in this tournament. Where are the right-sided centre backs? Why are we not producing any right-sided centre backs? You know, you shouldn't have to play two left-sided centre backs. That's also a problem as well. Our fullbacks we thought was going to be a strong point for us this tournament. They weren't. They were horrific. Cambiasso, when he played, was horrific as well. He was awful, Cambiasso. He was supposed to be
it was. But I think, you know, there's
the quality. Basically, the point, the quality of players just isn't there, and our terrible recent record proves that this is systematic. You know, the Euro 2020. Again, let's not rewrite history. The Euro 2020, we were great from start to finish, from qualification to winning the title. We were the best team. We deserved to win that. Title. There's no doubt about it. Mancini did a great job. We had a world-class midfield. We had two world-class centre-backs. We had a great goalkeeper. We performed well as a team. We went on a long unbeaten run. We deserved to win. We're not anybody that starts saying, "Oh, that was a fluke," blah blah blah. Are talking stupid. But Euro 2020 as a whole tournament from qualification, that is an exception to what we've seen from Italy in general over the last 15 years. Like, we've not qualified for a World Cup for what will be 12 years if we get there, since 2014. We've not played a World Cup knockout game since winning the World Cup in 2006. It will be 20 years, in what will be 20 years by the time of the next tournament. We've had basically two great tournaments, 2012 and 2020. We've had one tournament where we punched way above our weight with a terrible team in 2016 to get to the quarterfinal, which is not the semis or the final, but we punched way above our weight just to get to the quarters. Everything else has been a disaster with Italy. So what we have to say is that what we've seen in this tournament is closer to our true level than winning Euro 2020. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
So we can't.
That's just the hard truth.
That's the hard truth, and we can't. We can't just say, if we had a better manager, we'd have done this or that. Yes, Spalletti had a horrible tournament, disastrous tournament. But the bigger picture is that our quality of players is not good enough, Nima.
No, it isn't, and I think that overall, and I think that's the thing though, and that's why I want Allegri. All jokes aside, that when you are in this situation. Again, when you have a coach when you have a crop of players that are who they are, then you're going to have to try to work miracles in order to get results. And as opposed to, I mean, you're at a crossroads. Do you go with the ideologue with Spalletti, and you try to build something long term, playing one way, or do you or do you just look at it and go, look, this is the best I've got. I need to make the best out of the situation. I need someone who can make the best out of the situation. So, but that's personal choices. My issue is, regardless of which crossroads you take, left or right, or Allegri or Spalletti or whatever, stick to your guns, stick to your identity, and if it fails in 2 years' time, we'll know, and then you proceed from then on.
Yeah,
this back and forth needs to stop.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'm more concerned with the bigger picture, and the manager, who is manager of the senior Italy national team, only plays a very small part of this. So it's not really so much. Although I do think he should be aligned, and the synergy should be there from top to bottom. Is we need to work out a way to make sure that we are producing more players and developing more players, and that brings us down to the youth development, which is a very big talking point. It was a big in the press conference that Gravina had. It was asked a lot about the lack of opportunities that youth players get. So this is the bigger problem, and the path. We've discussed it before, and I wanted to discuss it when we have. We're going to be interviewing someone from the under-17 youth Italy national youth setup in part of the staff, and I want to ask him about this in a few weeks when we speak to him. The pathway from youth to senior football at club level is abysmal, and it's killing the Italy national team. That there is no pathway. The last 15 years there has been no pathway, and Italy right now are under 17 and under 19 Euro champions. We're under 20 World Cup runners up. We are right now the best youth team in international football. That's just fact. With that over the last 2 years. Now the problem is how can we get these players from getting from under 17, under 19 level and under 20 World Cup into Serie A, playing regularly from a young age and then developing? Because that just has not happened and still isn't happening. Those under 9, I went through and looked at this in preparation for this show because I wanted to make sure I had my facts right. Only one player from the under-19 Euro champions last year has played regularly in Serie A last season. That was Michael Kayode at Fiorentina, who had 26 Serie A appearances. That also came about partly thanks to luck because Dodo got a serious ACL injury, missed most of the season. So Kayode came in, but okay, whatever, it happened. He played, that's good. That's it. Only one player from the under-20 World Cup team, Matteo Pratti at Cagliari, has played regularly in and they're a little bit older, but has played regularly in Serie A last season. Baldanzi got scraps at Empoli, who were like bottom of the table when he was there. Then he went to Roma and got even less scraps at Roma. One of the most exciting youngsters in Italian football at his age level. I mean, he looked incredible at his age level. Simone Pafundi, he couldn't even get a kick at, and I love Udinese, we've got a good relationship. He couldn't even get a kick at an Udinese team with one of the worst attacks in Serie A. You know, they had the Watford lad that scored like 1 goal in 2 years. You know, he was playing instead of him. I mean, he had to move to Switzerland. And then they got the under-17 winners. Okay, they're a little bit young, but
they're a little bit
but there's some really big talents there. You know, Kamada, Liberardi from Milan.
And I'm glad that they're playing in. I know what you're saying. And
so the pathway to get these youngsters from youth to senior, it just isn't there.
I think you're absolutely right. I agree 100% with there is a problem in terms of pathway to the Serie A, because they don't need to start for Inter Milan and Juve or Roma or Lazio, but they need to at least play for the smaller Serie A teams, the Empolis, the provincial side, right? The Lecce. I think Lecce is actually doing a good job, but at the same time, there's the other. I understand they're fighting for their survival in Serie A. So they want to, they'd rather cut their, minimize their risks, which I understand. But I do think that there is a problem with youth, the non-existence road between youth success at international level and Serie B and Serie A sides, or Serie A sides in particular. That I do think is a problem. But I do want to say this. I'm getting really exhausted of listening to people piss and moan about youth, comparing Italy to Spain. Italy does not have Nico Williams, okay? Italy does not have what's his name? His name eludes me now.
Lamine Yamal.
Yamal, yeah. Where is he? Where is he? In Italy.
Well,
who's that supposed to be?
I
sorry,
think this is
but this is nonsense. This is what drives me insane. No, it's not just the pathway; it's also the quality.
Well,
there is
no,
no
but
one
this
on
it's
that
deeper
level.
than that. It's not black or white either way. You know,
Yeah.
this is where we can go deep. We can go into the youth systems, and we can look at how in Spain, for example, every single youth team in Spain from like under 8, under 9 level, you know, they all generally, or certainly at teams like Barcelona and other teams, they all have the same style of football, the
Yeah.
same patterns of play, the same formations often in every single youth level.
And
So,
you look at
they
Real
all
Madrid
understand.
and
So that
Barcelona,
makes that
and not just
pathway.
that, and not just
Let me
that.
finish. But that pathway becomes a lot easier to move up from under 12s
Look,
to
you're
under
looking for
13s,
uniformity.
from under 16s up straight into. So Lamine Yamal going from under 16 straight up into the Barcelona youth team. That pathway is easier because
Of course it is.
because he already understands all the patterns. It's not so much of a jump because he can already fit in technically and tactically. So there's
Because
that.
you're talking about uniformity. I
Yeah.
get that. And I think that's, if you look at Real Madrid and Barcelona, what are the traits that are important there? Well, it's a technical passing style of football. And so, the patterns of play, all of that is very similar. And so therefore there is also a, pipeline almost to those teams from youth as well, right? In Italy, we don't have that. And we need to, you're not going to, if you expect, as Sven always says, Italy's Italy, it's never going to change. You're never going to get you're never going to get an identity change where you have 20 teams in Serie A all deciding together that they're going to play a specific style of football. That's never going to happen. Every country has its identity, every country has its culture, its own history. So what you need to do is to find a way to that where you can start getting players into Serie A so that they can start playing in the Serie A, show that they're good enough, and then take the next step. My problem is with that stat. Only one player of the under-19 Euro champions played regularly in Serie A last season. That is a problem.
Yeah.
That needs to change.
Yeah, and we're not. Listen, when you use extremes, with Yamal and Williams, that kind of clouds over the fact that, like you said, there's one player. I mean, but that's not acceptable because you can't. I'm sorry, you can't tell me that I know youth success doesn't always translate into senior success because there's lots of things that can happen in between, but the fact that, we're Euro under 17, Euro under 19 champions, under 20 World Cup runners up, and none of these players are getting a chance. I'm sorry, but they're not getting the chances. We're not saying that these players should become Yamal or Williams and be
but
playing
they should
for
at
Italy at
least
16.
play for a Cagliari or an Empoli or a Lecce
exactly.
or an Udinese.
And the problem is the pathway isn't there from there. They're either having to go out on loan. They're going out on loan to substandard lower leagues. I mean, the Serie A thing. Okay, I think that's a positive and a step forward that they've tried to address, bringing in these B teams for Milan, Milan now. Milan, Juventus already had one. Milan and Atalanta have got them. I think that's a step forward. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's that Serie. Well, I am, but the problem is that Serie C isn't a high enough level. You go to Serie C, that's better than playing at Primavera level. I will accept that, but it's still, the level is not high enough. If you ever watch Serie C football, or Serie D football, I see it now and again because Foggia, my dad's team, are in there. The level is horrendous. I'm sorry. No disrespect to all these teams. We've got friends in those levels. But it's not good enough. Kamada's going to go there next season. That's not good enough for Kamada.
Let me put it to you this way.
Enough level for him.
I wish Kamada would have gone to Serie B. That's what I wish. I think at that age, it would have been very interesting to see him play in the Serie B. I think it would have been very, very interesting to see him play in the Serie B. I don't want youth rotting away on the bench. I don't. I want to see them play regularly. Now, I agree with you that I think the Serie C could be a little bit, for some players, it could be too low. But regardless, I want to see them play regularly. I really do, because that's the only way they learn. And someone like Kamada, I would have liked to see in Serie B. But regardless, I think this format, the under-23 sides for the bigger clubs, going up the youth, the system up to Serie B, Serie C, and then capping them so that they can't get up higher than the Serie B. I think that's the way to go. I really think that's the way.
Well, they did that in Spain.
Yeah.
But Barcelona B or Real Madrid Castilla can't get into the La Liga.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the way to do it. I really think that's the way to do it. Because that way you at least have resource-rich clubs, or the biggest clubs with the biggest financial muscles in Italian football, being able to play quote unquote young players and talented players, and then like I think Juve, with Barella and Sule, have shown the way there. Samuel Elling Jr. and so on. I think they've actually shown that. I think that's a really good way to do it. Then of course the question becomes, well, why doesn't Juve keep Sule and all? But that's another debate.
That brings
Yeah.
me on nicely to again how we view young players in Italy. One, we view them with caution. We don't want to give them chances, as we've just discussed. But also, we're viewing young footballers as financial assets rather than sporting assets, and clubs are selling off youngsters for the plusvalenza, because when you sell off a player that has grown in your youth system, that represents full profit on your accounts. So clubs are selling off, and we've seen this. Look at Juventus. Look at the history of Juventus, Inter, Milan. Look at all the big clubs. The number of young, talented players that have come through their academies that they've sold for money, just so that they can then fund their transfer market. And again, this comes down. This is why it's a cycle. This is why England have been producing so many talented young English players, because there's so much money in the game. They can invest in their youth system. They can invest in the best coaches, the best sports science. But they also, when they get youngsters, they don't have to sell them off to try and fund their transfer market, because they've already got enough money for their transfer market already. So we are just selling off. Probably Atalanta are the exception. They're the one team that they actually use their youngsters that come through before selling them off. But you look at the other teams. I mean, they're just using them just to. And Juventus are doing it again this summer. They've sold off Barella. They'll, if the right offer comes in for Sule, they'll probably sell him. If they get a big offer for Sule, they'll sell him.
Yeah, but I mean, but there's also you have to also live in the financial reality you live in, and Juve.
And this is the point is, this is where Serie A doesn't help. Serie A is not helping us. The state of Serie A.
But I mean, if you look at Inter with Carboni, for example, Valentin Carboni plays regularly now, part of the Argentine national team setup, right? They've made it clear they don't want to sell him. They want to loan him to another Serie A club and see how he develops, and then try to integrate him because they believe in him.
Yeah.
So I do think that we have turned a corner with this. I'm going to be honest with you. I do think that we have turned a corner. I think that's why I'm not too negative moving forward with this Italy team, because I mean, I guess that's a nice segue to the next.
Well, just to finish off on this, Nima, is that I do want to make, because it was raised again about the number of foreigners that are playing in Serie A. 67% of footballers in Serie A are foreigners. Milan have one Italian in their starting 11. Juventus probably working it out how their team is going to. I'm thinking it's going to be 2 outfielders that are Italian for Juventus next season, 3 at the most if Locatelli can break back into the team. Napoli have got one. I think we'll have 1 Italian, maybe 2 actually, because they're buying Buongiorno, aren't they?
Well,
2 Italian
show as well if they decide to keep.
Well, yeah, but I'm not sure if he'll start. But Udinese, the big one, again, I'm going after Udinese. They've got 1 outfield Italian in their 30-man squad. 30-man squad, only one.
Yeah,
one
that's a problem.
1 outfield Italian. And in the most recent study done by the CIES, Serie A ranked 38th out of 40 out of the top 40 leagues in Europe in terms of percentage of minutes played by club-trained players. So that's players. Again, that comes back to the point of not giving your players that you train, like youth players, a chance. They're not giving them chances. They're just selling them off or loaning them out. So I think there needs to be a culture change. That
needs to be addressed. That absolutely needs to be addressed. That for sure needs to be addressed.
I mean, obviously, the EU law means,
like you said,
law means that it's not possible unless we leave the EU.
I don't think it'll
do
even
a full Brexit.
do an Italexit, because Carlo's unhappy with how youth is going.
I'm full Farage and Salvini now. Just Bring back the foreigner rule. 11 Italians only.
Oh my god! No, but listen. I mean, that's just not gonna.
But the bottom line is, look, the pathway needs to change, because if it doesn't,
that's the most
if this
important
doesn't
thing.
change, then fair enough. Complain that complain as much as you want that it's untrue. We're going to continue going to Euros with these kind of squads, and we're going to continue not qualifying for World
Yeah.
Cups. We're going to go three World Cups without qualifying. Fine,
No,
that's
but
fine.
listen, I think that is the main takeaway: the lack of pathway to the Serie A as a whole for these youngsters. That is what worries me, and that's what I would like to somehow address. But moving forward, I'm not too disappointed. Not disappointed is a long word, but I'm not too worried, because if like I said, you stay now that you've decided to stick with Spalletti, you full on stick to the Spalletti project. You fully on marry that Spalletti project, similarly to how you married the Mancini project when he took over after the disaster that preceded his era. You give him the time. It's a 2-year project now. Give him the time. Give him the space to fully integrate the ideas he wants. Meaning, if he doesn't want to call up certain players because they don't suit his style, then so be it, no matter who that player is.
Yeah.
So when I look forward, I'm not too worried. I look at Udoji. I look at Tonali.
Let's move on to can we just come on to that in a little bit, Nima? I just want to just quickly 3 more reasons why Italy, or 3 more factors that we need to just go through quickly. First of all, the FIGC need to be held accountable. All the criticism is of the players. And a lot of criticism on the players and obviously of Spalletti, but the FIGC in general, the way and the Italian Serie A, it's not helping Italian football, is it? I mean, the stadium's not being developed, the backward marketing, the pathetic TV deals. It's all intertwined. The youth development,
one thing leads
it's all
to
connected.
another.
It's all connected,
It's all connected.
as we just said.
Yeah. No, it all does. It all does. But
should Gravina go?
No, I don't think so. He's friends with the right people who control Italian football. There's no need for him to go. And also, if you look at youth level, they are delivering the results. No, he's not. He's not going to go. I think it would be at this point. It's not time for him.
Well, his election is up. Next.
I don't see him going anywhere. I don't see him going.
Well,
anywhere.
the buck stops with the senior national team. Well, you can say what you want about the youth team. If you don't qualify for the World Cup and then you produce this kind of performance, I think your job has to be on the line.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah,
it has
but
to be on the line.
He's not going to go. If Italy lose the Euros in 2032 due to this mess with the stadiums, then the entire board should resign. But other than that, I don't see him going. I really don't.
Two more points. In fact, we'll talk about them together. The injuries, we have to accept that injuries also played a big reason in this failure. Like, we were missing, or injuries and absentees, we were missing Tonali, Udoji, Acerbi, Berardi, Zaniolo and Scalvini. All 6 of those would have been in the squad. That's 3 first-team players at least. I think Tonali and Acerbi definitely would have started. Berardi, if he's playing a winger system, which is what he wanted to play, he would have started as well. And then Udoji, as soon as DiMarco is performing as badly as he was, I think Udoji comes into the team. You would think he'd come in the team if Spalletti would have picked him. So that's 4 first-team players there. I'm sorry, any team or any squad, any country would suffer as a result of missing all those players.
We have to acknowledge
that needs to. But that brings us on to a bigger point. And that is the physical condition of the players was terrible in this tournament. It's not just injuries, but we were so badly conditioned this tournament. Like we didn't have the energy, we didn't have the intensity. We just looked physically completely inferior certainly to Spain, but to Switzerland as well. This has been a problem, for a while now. Are we about the training? I mean, I've spoken to people that say that the way that we train and condition players, injury prevention, we talked about the ACLs to big players like Chiesa, Zaniolo, Scalvini, the injury prevention, but also the way that we condition our players to get them fit and running and at a physical level required. We're behind the rest of Europe.
I don't think it's just that. I think it's also how they're trained. I don't think it's just that. I think they burn out easily. Lots of players, and They don't do it in other countries, and they play just as many games. And so you have to ask yourself what the difference is there, without being conspiratorial and referring to Bangsbo and whatnot. I seriously look at France, look at England, look
Well,
at
Scamacca
Germany.
didn't look very fit. Very
No,
fit.
this is what I mean. Like, what is it that they play just as many? Those are top players, world class players. They play for the biggest clubs. They play just as many games as Italian players, but they don't look burned out. So what's happened there? I think that's the question you want to ask, and that's what you need to look at. What's the difference there in training, in keeping these guys up, in the fitness tests, in the analysis, all of those things? That's what I want to know. For me, more than anything,
There's no doubt about the injuries. There's no doubt about that.
They need to have a deep talk there. They need to have very good introspective.
Because again, if you were to go through all the big nations and you were to take their two best up and coming players and give them ACLs, see how they would do in the next few tournaments. They're going to suffer as a result, aren't they?
Well, Zaniolo doubled.
I mean, imagine you went to Germany. Pick who are their two best young
take
talents.
Musiala and give him
Musiala and Wirtz. Wirtz actually did have an ACL, to be fair. But
I'm taking. Well, that's also another question then. Why is Wirtz able to come back from an ACL and play as well as he did, but Italian players, Chiesa's looking finished?
Yeah,
that's a good. I mean, I know they play in different positions, but I mean, again, I think when you look at these things, when you look at sports science, because it's a science, everything should be open. You should be look under no stone unturned.
Yeah.
Ask every question.
We're no longer at the forefront.
Collect the data and then analyze.
In the 80s and 90s, we were at the forefront of the medical world in football. We were. I remember when the likes of Vialli and Zola and Ravanelli came to England. I remember at the time, it was all, they used to laugh at the way that physical preparation and the way that they trained here, in England, and how Italy was so far, Milan lab, how far advanced Italian football was in the medical department, and now we're behind the rest of the world, and we can't even keep our players.
Well, the thing is, I think that's addressable. I think all of those things are addressable, because it's not like Spanish players and French players and German players or English players are a different species. They're all humans. So they should be able. This should be addressed. This lay at the sports science and analytical level. So this is addressable, and that's why I'm thinking I want to collect all the data, all questions, then based on that, draw your conclusions and choose a pathway forward. I think that's the best way to do it. That's the evidence-based way of looking at that specific issue. And I think that's something we need to worry, because it is worrying. I'm really like Zaniolo, 2 ACLs, Chiesa, Scalvini. This is not good. This is these are really talented players who have careers ruined because of these horrible.
Yeah, and then
injuries.
it then affects the Italy team.
Of course it does.
Yeah. Okay. Just before we finish off, let's look ahead now. Let's try and bring some light to all this darkness and look at what the new Italy can look like under Luciano Spalletti now that he is staying. Spalletti said in his press conference on Sunday that he will be looking to pick a younger Italy squad with more energy, energy going forward.
Fantastic.
So what we will do, Nima, is let's go through first of all the Italy's Euro 2024 squad. I'm going to read through each player, very very simple, in or out, whether they should be part of the new Italy looking ahead to the 2026 World Cup, or they should be axed and it should be the end of them. So starting off with the 3 goalkeepers, Donnarumma, that's an easy one, in.
He's the captain. So.
Yeah. Vicario,
in
the squad, second goalkeeper. Meret,
out. Carnesecchi or Di Gregorio.
Yeah, agreed. Di Gregorio for me. Let's go through the defence now. Di Lorenzo, out.
I think he's not going to, because that's his son, quote unquote, which is stupid, but he's not going to. But I think, yes, I think it's time to start looking for different options.
Federico Di Marco,
out. He doesn't suit Spalletti's system, and it's a waste of everyone's time.
I would keep him in for now, but I would certainly probably pick Udogi as my starter, and maybe Di Marco could be somebody to come on when the tempo is dropped. Last 30 minutes or something to give that quality. But But yeah, I do see your point there. Buongiorno.
Well, no point in calling him up
Mm.
because he's a centre back in a back three, and he doesn't want to play with that. So no,
But
out.
he can. I would say in. Listen, I would say in. Not a starter, but it has to be in. We need.
But he can't play in a back four, and he can't play in a high line.
Well,
What's the point?
yeah.
I mean, this is what I mean, Carlo. Look, we can't sit here and say you can't tinker. And look, I remember
listen, we'll come to the alternatives.
I remember when Roberto Mancini was not called up at the Italy side due to also off-field issues, but also tactical issues, right? I remember when Lippi got rid of Roberto Baggio twice.
Well, yeah,
okay?
but we had world-class alternatives there.
No,
you
no,
don't
but,
call up
but,
Buongiorno. Who do you going to call up? Gianluca Mancini. I mean,
listen. My point is, if you're going to play with a back four, if you're going to play with a high line, you need either that or get rid of Spalletti. You can't have it both ways, because it's obvious that when Spalletti is not capable of doing things.
Well, listen, for me, he's in, because until you can give me better alternatives to be in the squad, I'm gonna have to go with Buongiorno. We have to work.
Before I have some idiot coming at me, I'm not saying that Buongiorno's not good enough to be in the Italian team. What I'm saying is,
well, we're talking about the squad. Yeah, the squad.
No. Listen, I'm not saying that Buongiorno's not good enough to be in the Italian national team. That's not what I'm saying. So I don't need someone coming at me saying, "Oh, you said he's not good enough." No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if he doesn't suit Spalletti's system, they shouldn't be in the team, because otherwise, like I said earlier, look at what happened in this tournament. The tinkering back and forth, it doesn't work.
Listen, I hear your point. I'm just saying that also we have to be realistic with the options, and if you don't call up Buongiorno because it doesn't necessarily suit his style of play, then you have to have another sense back in the squad.
Yeah.
So who are you going to have? You're not going to have Gatti, you're not going to have Mancini, you're not going to have, I don't know who you're going to have, Casale, Romagnoli. These players are ill-fitting as well.
Yeah.
We don't have the options. So, I think for that reason, he has to be in the squad. I wouldn't start him though. Gatti out for sure.
Yes.
Damian out.
Yeah, for sure.
Bellanova in, but actually given a chance.
Yeah, but again, he's not a fullback, is he? Until I see him playing as a fullback.
Yeah.
What's the
point? But then nor was Udogie. Udogie wasn't a fullback, and he managed to adapt.
Yeah, but Udogie is different because Udogie's shown that he can play as a fullback.
Yeah.
At top.
We need Bellanova to join a team with plays a back four, basically, and prove himself. Yeah, and then we can have him in. Mancini.
Look, I think Gianluca Mancini in a back four. I like Gianluca Mancini in a back three, but I want to see what he can. If De Rossi's going to play with a back four, which it seems like he is, I want to see Mancini to the right of that. So I want to wait before I say anything. I want to wait because I think Mancini has grown. I think he has improved. I think he's matured. I want to wait and see. That's what I want to do. I want to wait and see.
Yeah, okay. Bastoni in, Cambiasso in. I think we'll agree there. Yeah. Fratesi, this is an interesting one. I'm not sure on this one.
I think Fratesi can be part of the squad because what he does do, if you remember Simone Perotta, no other comparisons between them, but he was a similar style of player in the sense that he was very dynamic and made runs from deep, and that really worked for Spalletti. So I think Fratesi is useful to Spalletti if as a rotation player coming in off the bench when he's chasing a goal and he needs runs from deep. But if he's going to use Davide Fratesi in the build-up phase, hell no.
Yeah. I would say at most for Fratesi, a squad player that can come on. I just can't trust him even to start in any type of system. If your pass success rate's 50%,
well, that's what I mean.
It's just not. I don't care whether you're in the build-up or whether you're further up the
field.
No,
I don't want.
I just can't. You just can't. Yeah. That's just not doable at all. Jorginho, I think we agree out. He's going to be out. He'll be 34 or 34, almost pushing on 35. So he will be too old. Thank you, great career. That might be the last time he's played for Italy. Pellegrini, Lorenzo Pellegrini.
I still believe that a midfield trio with him to the left as a mezzala works. I absolutely believe
I would keep him around, maybe not as a starter, but he'll be 30 at the next tournament. Maybe keep him around for one more. Cristante has to be out.
Oh my God. Catapult him into the sun.
Barella in.
Yes, start.
Fagioli, I would have it in as well.
Me too.
And Fodoruncio, I mean, let's see how he does it at Napoli. Let's see how he does at Napoli. I don't want to say definitely out because we didn't really see much of him. The attack now. Scamacca, I think, has to be in. We have to give him another chance. We need to see more from him. Raspadori.
Yes. But the question is, does he work in a 4-3-3? I'm not sure he does.
Raspadori, question mark for me. I mean, again, we have to be realistic with the options. Chiesa.
No. Unless something magical happens and he starts performing at somewhat acceptable level.
I would have Chiesa in for now, but I would have him as a sub player, someone to bring on for like 20 minutes.
Too.
Again, we got to be realistic with our alternatives.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We don't have anyone, but I think we need to find a different. We need to find some attackers basically, and we can't be starting with the same attackers that started in this tournament and expect different results because it's not going to happen. So I would keep Chiesa along, but as a backup.
I don't know if you mentioned Calafiori, but we definitely.
Oh yeah, sorry, Calafiori, goes without saying.
But I think goes without saying. Yeah.
Retegui, I think has to be out. Yeah,
no,
yeah, not
based on what we've seen, and I think he was,
just too limited. Yeah, he's just a box player. And Zaccagni, I want to say well done to him. I thought he did well with the scraps he did.
I think he should be in the squad if he delivers.
He's 29 years old. He'll be 31 at the next tournament. I think he will be past his best then. So I'm going to say no. We need to think how old they're going to be at the next tournament. And El Shaarawy definitely out, definitely. Okay, so that's the players that are there. In terms of players who didn't go to the Euros who need to be part of the group going forward, I've got a list here. I'll read them out, and then you just tell me if there's any you would add to or anyone you would disagree with. So, De Gregorio's third goalkeeper, as we said, Udogie as one of the left backs. I would make him the left back starter going forward. Scalvini is one of the centre backs, assuming he recovers okay. Fingers crossed from the ACL. Tonali will be a pillar of the centre midfield. Huge miss from this tournament. We said it at the time. I think we were doomed as soon as he was ruled out of the tournament way back at the start.
And I want him back in the Serie A. Bring him back for the Premier League.
Locatelli brought back in the squad. I'm hoping that Thiago Motta can resurrect him. Back in the squad, Locatelli. And then in the attack, again, we're really struggling for attackers coming through. So there's not much we can do here. But I'm hoping, again, Gnonto, potentially, if he gets a move from Leeds, from the Championship and develops, at least he's the style of player that, you're saying about what suits the Spalletti style. I'm thinking that he is that kind of player. Are there anybody else that you would?
I'm looking at youth. I really believe in Michael Kayode.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe in him. I think he has a huge future ahead of him, and I think he could be the starting right back for Italy in a back for a long time. You know my love for Samuele Ricci. That's not new. Parisi, I hope, starts playing football properly now, and I don't know what they're going to do now, because Parisi, now that Palladino's talked about playing with a back three, taking over at Fiorentina. So either you play Parisi as a wing back. We know that he works as a full back, but regardless, I want Parisi. I want Parisi in some place where he can play. I want Baldanzi start being integrated into Roma and playing regularly. Ruggeri, I think, has done really well at Atalanta. No, I do. I look at that squad and I see, Kayode, Bastoni, Calafiori, Udogie, Donnarumma is a good place to start.
Yeah, Kayode, I want to see him develop more technically, but physically, I think he's got the attributes definitely to play the kind of Spalletti kind of,
And then I look at
to bring more intensity. But I want to see him more technically. He's been a little bit limited from what I've seen of him technically, but we'll see how he develops.
And I look at the midfield: Barella, Tonali, Pellegrini, or Barella, Fagioli, Ricci.
Well, let's talk. What would be a possible 11 at the 2026 World Cup? Donnarumma, if we're going to go with a 4-3-3/4-2-3-1, which is, we know that's what Spalletti wants to play.
No, we need to do that. We need to scrap all this nonsense.
Yeah, Donnarumma in goal. Then, if Bellanova can develop, Kayode or Bellanova at right back, Udogie at left back.
Yeah.
Then the centre backs, Calafiori and Bastoni, but then Scalvini is a kind of an alternative option as well there, hopefully, if he can. And then the midfield, I think Barella and Tonali definitely to start. And then we kind of need to find a kind of a regista. Yeah. We need someone to emerge as a top regista.
Yeah.
That's what we need. So we hope that maybe Fagioli, Ricci can
Or
develop.
you can play, because Barella's a tuttocampista, or you can play Tonali there, or Barella as a regista, and then you have Tonali and Pellegrini. I mean, you've got options. I'm not worried about
The attack is going to be the problem again, and right now we basically need players to emerge, players that we haven't mentioned, players that are not there yet. Gnonto, I still want to hold on to some hope with Gnonto, but it really develops on where
He needs
if he
to
moves.
join a team that plays a 4-3-3.
Yeah, and leave the championship.
Yes.
So again, that's clutching at straws a little bit. I put Chiesa question mark, but again, that's because I'm looking at where are the alternatives. Like this is the problem. And Scamacca, we're hoping that he can emerge. It probably is going to be too early for someone like Kamada, but again, you never know. You know, he absolutely destroyed the under-17 Euros. He's way too good for that level. So why can't he move up to a
Well,
senior
what about
level?
if you can still play a 4-3-3 and you can invert maybe Pellegrini instead of on the left wing?
Yeah,
if you know what I
no.
mean.
I think listen, if we want to play the style of Spalletti, I just think we need
No,
faster
because if you
players.
got Udogi marauding up the wing, you could kind of have Pellegrini
No, you could
there.
in a kind of the way that Insigne did it. Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think that we need quicker players. We need players with more pace and intensity, and I just don't think
Absolutely.
Pellegrini fits into that same reason for DiMarco doesn't. Like, they're just too slow, both of them. I don't think that suits the press. If you try and win the ball up high and quickly, you can't have players like DiMarco and Pellegrini and these kind of players. So yeah, but at the end of the day, where are the players? That's the problem in the attack. Anyway, let's leave it at that.
I think. Look, I just want to end by
Mm.
saying I'm not too negative moving to the future, because again, I'm actually pretty bullish. I look at what happened, how Italy is, performing at youth level, and I see some interesting players there, and I see some, and I look at this lineup, and I finally see a hope for the back four, which we haven't seen or the central defenders for the first time in ages. I look at the midfield. I think it's fine. The goalkeeper, there's no discussion. I'm worried about the attack behind Scamacca, Gnonto, Chiesa. Like the front three is an audition. That's what Italy need. The front three, and there's now 2 full seasons. A lot can happen in those 2 seasons. But yeah, that's where I'm more worried more than anything is those areas. But I'm not worried. I think they'll be fine. I think the most important thing now is this. Like I said, and I keep repeating it. Spalletti has to, if you're going to stick with him, which you've decided that you're going to, you have to give him the mandate to pick and build what he wants, how he wants, irrespective of who he excludes. Don't put pressure on him to call players that he doesn't believe in, that he doesn't think fits his system. That's it. That's all I want to see.
Yeah,
I don't care who it is.
I agree with you there. I agree with you. Let's just finish off with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. Baggio. Is there a Baggio? I think we have to go with Donnarumma. I do. I want to give a positive to someone, and this is more of Donnarumma. This is more a Baggio of the tournament for Italy. Like, he was so good. It's like he was a monster.
He's a
Like
shot stopper.
one of the great performances by a goalkeeper at an international tournament. That sounds crazy for a team that went out in the last 16, but he was so amazing. Like,
No, his shot stopping is unbelievable, and he's a giant.
yeah.
Like when he jumps, he covers the whole
No,
damn
Zenga
goal.
said he's made the goal look smaller.
He really does.
And he only got beaten by that first goal because it took a deflection off Mancini.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he probably would have saved that one as well.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he's massive. He's huge. But that's another thing. Spalletti can't expect him to be like, because he's not good with his feet. He's not going to change, and I don't care. Spalletti needs to find another way to build from the back.
But that was a total non-factor in this tournament, no, wasn't it? Like, it didn't really make any difference in this tournament. I mean,
yeah, but I'm just saying,
none of our defenders could pass the ball 2 yards. Like when we were trying to build out, when it was, it was horrendous against Switzerland. Like, trying to build out from the back, it was unbelievable, unbelievable.
Zaccagni's goal as well.
Yeah, I mean, we had him for last week, didn't we? So yeah. No, at least it
goal.
gave us one great moment from the tournament. Premface of the week. I've got a few here. So Rory Lattori has been on a rampage this week. Rory Lattori said that all Italians and Spanish people will agree that Ashley Cole is the best left back of all time.
He's in. Does he suffer from something? Like, what is he? Is it because he says it with such
No, this
conviction?
is a big
too.
week for Azzurri, Nima. It's the election in general election
Yes, of course.
in England. So it's a big
And
week
he's
for them.
going for minister of stupidity. But
it
no,
wasn't
it's
it wasn't the only one. They were also talking about who's the greatest Italian player of all time, and he's like Gianfranco Zola. Like it was because he played in England.
He's such an idiot.
He also said that Pirlo was overrated as well. By the way.
He also said that Erling Haaland wouldn't succeed in the Premier League. He just talks absolute nonsense. Who is this guy? I'm sorry, but who is he? Who is this guy? Why is he even like? Wasn't he like some third-rate soap star that decided to use his fame to talk about football?
I think
Isn't that who he is?
He was in EastEnders for like half an episode once.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Third-rate soap star using his claim to fame in this to talk about football, a subject he's evidently not qualified to talk about. Like it literally is this influencer culture that I despise and can't wait for end. But it literally he embodies that idiot who's famous for being famous has opinion. More at 6. It's just. I mean, it's just. Oh.
Love it. Finally, though, another Premface, although it was an American. The American journalist. Did you see the American journalist who asked Marcelo Bielsa in the Copa America what he likes about McDonald's in a post-match press conference? It was so weird. He was like, first of all, what did you think of the performance of Darwin Núñez? And secondly, what is it that you like about McDonald's?
It's so weird.
And Bielsa was so confused. He was like, McDonald's? What is this McDonald's?
And the funny thing about McDonald's is about Bielsa is that he's I just love press conferences with him. I'm fascinated by Bielsa. I really am.
Yeah. Serie Ass of the week.
Wait. There's more. There's more.
Go on.
Was it this week or last week the Ilicic thing?
It was this week. It was during Slovenia versus England. Yeah.
Lee Dixon, he should apologize for that because I think that was just because he knew about it too, didn't he?
I have no idea. Yeah. I have no idea if he knew about it. I mean, most of the pundits on English TV, the ex-player pundits just turn up with no research. They don't even do any research.
When Ilicic stepped, didn't they? Yeah, I mean, when Ilicic stepped onto Declan Rice knew about it, and that's what one of my badges of the week for what Declan Rice did. Told Josip Ilicic, gave him cred for gave support on the pitch.
He also called Calzona a bald. See you next Thursday as well.
Yeah. Did Lee Dixon do that?
No, Declan Rice did.
When did he call Calzona?
At the end of the game, they had a bust up at the end of the game.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That happens heat of the moment. I'm talking about what he did to that he came up to Ilicic and gave him compliments for coming back from the severe depression and mental health issues that he's had. And Lee Dixon says, "Blimey, he looks older than me." I mean, it's just
Yeah,
but Declan Rice knew about it, and I think that was a class.
He also asked him how to do some forward passes as well.
Declan sideways. And also one more Premface. That Bleacher Report image, I'm sorry, but that is just
the spaghetti. What was it again?
It was Jorginho.
Oh yeah.
When Italy got knocked out, it was Jorginho with for some reason a bowl of spaghetti thrown on his head, being poured on his head. Like,
I didn't even know Bleacher Report still existed. I don't even know.
Yeah, that's because you're not 14 anymore. Most people, I think it's only 13 or 14-year-olds are on Bleacher Report. But seriously, it was like, that's borderline racism. That is. It's just so tasteless. Yeah. So unbelievable.
But because it's Italy, you get away with it. Anti-Italian discrimination is fine.
Okay, calm down. Okay, no, it's not anti-Italian. It was just tasteless by.
Well, you said yourself that's borderline racist.
Yeah, it's borderline racist.
Yes, and that's the point I'm making. That it's acceptable to be racist or discriminatory against Italians. That's well known now. It's acceptable.
It's not acceptable.
Well, it is acceptable because if this happened anywhere else, there would be repercussions to to who did it. To Bleacher Report, and it's just brushed off as like, it's fine.
These tired old racial ethnic stereotypes it's so boring.
Yeah,
it really is, and it's like, that whoever did that thought he was really clever too. And it's like, I was actually, if I was thinking of creating an image of Declan Rice having, if next time England are knocked out, not in this tournament, but next tournament or whatever, next time England, I was thinking of doing an image of Declan Rice having what the English called quote unquote food, what we call dog food in the rest of the world, poured on his head,
fish and chips.
Well, poured on his head, and then post that on Twitter and say, you're it's not going home, you're going home. But I didn't want. I was thinking of doing that, but then I thought, if I do that, I'll probably have my account suspended for posting graphic images on Twitter, because, well, what the British or the English refer to as food, the rest of the world refers to as as
you
farm
kicked
food.
off for the food, not for the
No, but I'd rather have spaghetti thrown on my head than whatever, baked beans or whatever, black pudding or whatever else it is, whatever else that they
just remember to eat the spaghetti with a knife and fork. That's what I'll say.
And ketchup.
Right, listen, let's Serie Ass of the week, Nima.
Politano. I mean, what is he doing? What did you see
the
that
Instagram post?
Yes. And this guy thinks, if Alexis Sanchez doesn't live in reality, thinking he's some sort of top player still, Politano seems to think he's like, I don't know, Maradona or something.
Yeah. Well, he has some beef, doesn't he, with
No, but they've always had the beef. But that emoji of him shrugging his shoulders as if he could have changed, dude.
Yeah.
No.
I've gone for Juventus as well. They did an on this day post, and they had Carlos Tevez signing in 2017. So they got the year wrong by 4 years. Yeah.
That made me laugh.
Juventus are usually one of the better at kind of not making stupid factual mistakes. They're one of the better. They're one of the better Serie A accounts.
Club's history. You can't even get that.
Oh, and also Monza as well doing. Although I
thought that was funny.
Some people found that a bit funny. Yeah.
I thought that was funny. Although I think it's ridiculous that was the goal of the year, goal of the season, because Di Marco from the halfway line. I don't care if he meant it or not. It's the goal of the season. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But no, I thought that was pretty funny. That was like a current pop culture reference that actually worked.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Right, let's leave it at that. Thanks everybody for listening. A longer episode for you today because there was a lot to talk about. And let's hope that things get better for Italy going forward. We'll leave it at that. We'll be back on Tuesday for the Q&A. We'll have some more content later in the week. Until then, ciao.